Hello, welcome back. This is Michael Klein, and it's another Monday evening session. Uh, so this is a new week. I'm introducing a new series. I'm gonna call it the natural approach. A natural approach. So what I'm gonna do is I am going to make a painting inspired by artists that I really look up to. So um, everyone who's viewing it on Patreon, welcome. Everyone who's viewing it live, I'm glad you can catch this. I'm going to continue to do it over uh, several weeks, so you will be able to follow how I make a painting. So let's jump into it. A natural approach. So the most requested thing that people ask me to do is to develop a painting. And I've been offering 1 hour classes. These are going to continue to be an hour, but I've been offering 1 hour classes for a couple weeks now, several weeks, and I've been trying to introduce very simple uh, ideas. And I hope that those videos have been helpful in understanding my approach. But what people are craving, I think, is to understand how to develop a painting further. So that's what this is going to be about. Uh, my favorite artist, Daniel Bouveret, Bastien Lepage, I've talked about these artists a lot, and they've been a big influence on my career. And we can get into it, and you're welcome to ask questions. Millet, Breton, uh, Anton Mauve. So these are some really gorgeous paintings. So what I'm going to do is I have my little sketch box here, and this is going to be the big painting. So this is the canvas that I'm going to work on. And as you can see here, I'm trying to find the right camera. So it's a fairly large canvas. But before you start a project, you have to kind of get an idea. You have to sketch out where you're headed, what you're going to do. So I encourage people to do studies. And so I'm going to do a study today on paper. And we'll see how far we get. And if I am happy, I'll continue on to the large one. If I think I should do something else, I'll do a drawing or whatever I feel is right. So there's not much prep that goes into these classes. It's kind of, I get an idea in the morning, and I want to share with you what is on my mind. So this is what I'm going to do. So the class is going to be extended out over a couple weeks. Hopefully that's several weeks, actually. What I want to do is I want to push it and allow you access into my way of painting. So I'm going to show you every single step, and I'm going to take as long as I can, as long as I need to, I should say, to do the finished painting. Those of you who are supporting through Patreon, if you have a desire to see something else during this kind of process, then just send me a message, and maybe along the way, I will upload some other content. But in the meantime, let's see, let's go back to the beginning of. So Daniel Bouveret. In the meantime, the idea was I have an image that I'm going to share with you in a second. And It's a 19th century photograph that's in the public domain. And as you all know, photography is kind of a contested. Everyone's talking about like whether you should use it in the academic world, and everyone's basically come to the agreement that it's inevitable. Photography, ever since it was since it came onto the scene, it's been used by artists. So, what I'm interested in is how to share with you my thoughts and process about how I incorporate photography into my painting practice. And so I have a paint. I have a photo that I found that is going to be the source of this project. So it's by a photographer named Emerson, and it's in the public domain, and it's a subject that I think is pretty fascinating. So along these marshy fields, it was too wet. They couldn't get the cart out there. So the horses and the cart were too heavy. So they had to walk the hay back on to dry land. And it's called pulling the marsh hay. And so they would take basically fabric. I don't know much about it, but they would take fabric and use the poles. That's what you see there, poling. And they would just fill it and walk it out. So this kind of photography was new. It was introduced, and the photographer was really passionate about it. He was inspired by Lepage and others of the 19th century who started to show peasants at work and daily life in the field. And because of the way that they worked, they would work from life and they would use photos. And it's a mix of kind of the two, but they never had any color images to work from. So I've always thought it was fascinating how they would get their color from their images, right? So I think it could be really valuable for you all to watch me create a serious painting from a really beautiful subject over the course of several weeks without any color reference. So that's going to be the first step, is how to make a sketch, right? How to make a color study. So if you don't have a color photograph, you have to come up with a study. So I use acrylics at this process because they dry really quick and I'm able to get further and have a mimic a sense of atmosphere that I want to get on the big one. So if I can't layer anything in oil paints, then I won't be able to kind of see where I want to go. So with acrylic, I've found that I can get a study that I like, that it's not perfect, but it is something that I can manipulate and transform into a usable reference. So first step, I actually have to pull up the photo. Give me 1 second. I have to pull up the photo on my computer because I can't see it. All right. So I'm looking at the photo. You guys saw the reference. And so this is going to be It said it was in November. The photo was taken in November, and it was during an overcast sky. It looks blown out. If you see the back, it looks like it's like a sunrise or sunset, but I have the feeling that it's just an overcast day, and the way that the photo is reading the values, it looks darker. So I was kind of inspired by this atmospheric effect, and I think that that's pretty close to what probably you would have been seeing in something like this. So this is Anton Mauve. If you go into the close-ups, what I wanted to talk about in these slides was that by using black and white photography and painting from life, they were able to get just really, really incredible color harmonies. And they wanted to present nature as accurately as they could because there was no color photography. So they wanted to, as I talked about in the previous weeks, they wanted to share with their family and friends and the world their vision of what reality looked like. So they wanted to kind of capture this amazing color that was in nature before them. They didn't want to disregard what was going on. That's my understanding of understanding their paintings. A little that I've read is just that this desire to capture the truth in what they were seeing. On overcast days, the artists would go out of their way to build studios to mimic that light, to be able to bring it back. And a lot of this is invented space. This is a blend of impressionist thinking and academic thinking. So I talk about this a lot. This is the image I want to get to, so that you can see that overcast sky with the light coming through. And so that's kind of the effect that I'm shooting for. Everything is up in the air at this point. When you do studies like this, it's really, you have to be flexible. And let's see if I can get a good shot here. So, 2/3 of the way up in the picture, you have this kind of bright sky. And there's going to be probably pretty bad distortion depending on what happens with the palette. But so, if you've never worked with acrylics, you should try it. It's fun. So they pretty much dry. Acrylics dry it's almost like as you're putting it down, depending on how much water you're incorporating. Kind of like watercolor. So not to go on too much about the medium, because it's really just for my reference. I'll pull up the image again in a minute. If you have any questions, feel free to throw them in the chat or message me, and I'll try to address what you're thinking. So if that sky is super bright back there, there's going to be this vertical that's going to, the compositions. So if you think about this composition and what's happening in it, is basically like this 2/3, 1/4 horizontal with this is the central towering figure. You get these really cool secondary figures in the back. So you get this guy here, and then you get a couple of them back here. So if you can think about it, kind of I want to try to get as comfortable as I can here. If you can think about it in a abstract way first, then we'll be able to get into the mind of Emerson, at least to understand where the inspiration's coming from. So he was trying to compete or bring to the table or say that photography is fine art. And he was trying to compete with the painters, the really famous painters of his day, hence Lepage and Bouveret and Millet, these others. So he's composing. Now she's got this kind of quirky smile on her face. And I imagine it's because she's got a camera right in front of her. I don't think she would be smiling like that as she's working. And it looks like a nervous kind of laugh. So I don't think she's like smiling or posing for the camera. I think she's just probably kind of nervous because it was expensive equipment and the guy sounded like he was a pretty interesting artist. So I'm sure he was directing and demanding what was going on and kind of setting up his composition. So this is going to be a lot of fun to dive into and to not only get into his mind, but get into kind of thinking about the time period a little bit. I mean, I'm no historian, trust me. And getting into kind of what I love about naturalist painting and the pursuit of truth, and rather than painting something to make a pretty picture, I really think they were going after trying to say something that mattered and to bring these people into the limelight and to share their life and to share their humanity. So this is all just kind of, you as you do this, you start to feel out the scene, and you're making decisions based off of what you think would be going on. So I'm going to put in this overcast sky. Wonder if this is a better angle. Trying not to get my shoulder out of the way here. I don't know which. There you go. I think it's going to focus on my shoulder though. hard to keep track of everything. Maybe I can tip that forward. There's not so much glare. All right. Again, this color study for the big one. This is our goal. So, little 6x9 inch color study. If you've never done this, you definitely should try it. I don't want to spend months. I don't know if I'll work on it for months, but if depends. 1 hour a week, um, it could turn into months. I don't want to spend weeks. Painting on something I'm not convicted about, right? So you want to, this is where uh, if you look at, if we go back and look at the Lepage and Millet, this is where the artist's voice was really, this is where the kind of individual character of the artist, the interpretation, the inventing. This is the part I actually really love, uh, because it keeps it um, keeps it interesting. I'm not just copying. I'm not just copying a photo, something that a mechanism created. It's not just a two-dimensional translation. It's imagining if I was there and experiencing this with these people. It's what I really loved about Argentina is there's a lot of character still in the culture, and um, I can imagine spending time with these people. So this is going to be, again, this is a drawn out um, lesson. It's going to be over a course of, if everything goes well, a course of several weeks. If you've ever, like, I started thinking about it, and I enjoy um, giving those little lessons about form or about color or brushwork, but that's not really my strength. That's not my passion necessarily. I I'm more of an artist than I am a teacher, and I think that's important to pay attention to. If you're a teacher, then that's great. You know, you love to share information and you love to see people advance. And oftentimes you have a technique that you're sharing. But I'm more of an artist, and it's easier for me to get excited about coming and doing this every Monday when it's a subject that I'm really passionate about. And it must be something that people are interested in too, because that's what's been on the Patreon section. That's what people are really interested in. You guys who are on the Patreon side of this, you're really interested in how to finish a painting. And I'm sure that resonates across the board with people who are watching this. If you catch it live, so the cool part about this is um, that you guys will get to see how to make a painting. And so if you've never seen someone kind of go through the process, welcome. This is there will be a lot of surprises, I'm sure. I'm gonna see if I can. I want to refocus this, make sure it's. Oh, come on. I'm gonna switch cameras. If you want to see the image again, so this is our subject. You can see how I'm building up these different sections, the color, the atmosphere. I wonder if I could give me 1 minute. I'll add in the image here. I know. But this, yeah, I'm sure you guys will be thankful. It just takes a second. There we go. There's the image. Now you can see what I'm doing. Now I have to refocus. Okay, I want to do a wash over this. I'm going to take... This is part one. Part one. Part one. So my hope is that as we get going and it gets further along into the big one, that you will actually be super stoked on it. And it'll start to be really interesting to people. Because these little studies, um, like the previous classes that I've been giving on uh, brushwork and form modeling, or not brushwork, form modeling and drawing, and talking about like the um, the technical stuff. It's the foundation for my entire career. Like that's what I've been kind of saturated in is, you know, I almost feel like it's like a world that not everybody fully understands. And because oftentimes when people see representational art, they immediately associate it with photography. And because we have really great access to digital images, then no one ever thinks about if you would have to invent a painting or invent color. So it's kind of just, I guess, people just assume that, um, you know, the the color and the poetry and the feeling of the piece is all baked into the photo, and that's actually not true. A lot of the decisions that are made throughout the process are understanding nature and creating poetry based off of the source and based off of the kind of information that's at your disposal. Whether you're painting from nature or you're painting from older photograph or a new photograph, high res, fully color, super clear and sharp image. The humanity still has to be present. The the discovery process, the searching. I'm gonna go back to this shot for a little bit. Hopefully it's in focus. All right, let's see here. And put super white back here and back here, because this is a reflection on the water back there. There's a figure facing us. His head's right about there. This guy's bent over, picking up hay, stacking the hay to be carried off. I'm gonna see if I can lower this camera. There we go. I want to rest it on my knee because it's so heavy. Well, it's not heavy actually. It's less than a pound. But if you're my my back muscles are, if I hold it at eye level, it's pretty heavy. If I hold my arm up without anything at that level, pretty brutal. All right, I'm gonna mix a little bit dark here. I'll look and see if there's any questions. Sorry if I haven't. Hopefully, you know, this, you'll be able to appreciate the different. See, like, I'm going to be doing stuff that I haven't talked about or taught on yet because it's in my subconscious. If I'm talking the whole time, you're not gonna you're not gonna understand how I really work. Just blabbing away. It's no fun. So Just distance. So see an area like this, for example, the reason why I love the acrylic on a moment like this is because once this kind of dries, then you can go right over it if you screw up. Clean out your brush with water, which is way friendlier to your body than Gamsol. All right, let's go. I'm going to show you. We go back to some of these images. I'll go to slides. As we look for some of the color harmony in these images, you can see that the darks, not a whole lot to it, but there's life in the greens, there's life in the light above. There's that transition of, it could be a little bit yellowed from over time. Most likely that's the case. But there's a transition of the warms and cools throughout the sky. You have the warm notes of the ground. I just love those warm notes off to the right and the reflection of the grass there. You can barely see it in this image. Go back a few slides. This really made me, and I've shared this a few times, but the color that Lepage is seeing is really, really beautiful. This broken color here. The light greens, the reds, the violets, in the back, the blues and violets. Really beautiful. The blues, the greens, the reds, just that. It looks like he overpainted so much, just searching for his depth and textures. And that little hint of green and the really bright reds, like in the basket, the violets and the reds, and the subtle violets and that overpainting of the skin and flesh to get that gray kind of atmospheric overcast day. All right. I'll continue on my journey here. Time flies when you're having fun. I'm just going to check the comments. A couple people saying hello. Please feel free to chat. You've been very patient and all right, this dark back here. Create some of this structure. in the large piece, there will be moments where I'll have to zoom in on the photo to kind of accurately capture the structure. But for now, it's more about the big picture. So the overall the my color harmony is feeling a little bit cold. But remember, I was using that mauve as the kind of the main. I'm not looking at it right now, but that's the thing that's was kind of sticking out in my head, was that I felt like that was the maybe the closest light effect. Um, okay. That guy's. See, maybe I can take some. I think of these passages in acrylic as a glaze if I was painting in oil. So Deborah's asking if it's best to stay more transparent at this time to create the mood and effect. Uh, so kind of. I like the warm of the paper, so I wouldn't want to like immediately destroy that. So that's definitely part of why I'm trying to thin things out. Because especially with acrylic, if I were to go in and um, in my mind, like obliterate the I'm trying to trick basically the myself and the viewer, you guys, and anyone else who looks at this, uh, that it you know, it would be not that I'm trying to make it an oil painting because I know it's acrylic, but if over time I can think about these things as existing in layers, then it's going to translate better in my oil painting. So that's why I'm doing it that way. I'm sorry for the production today. It'll get better when we do the big one, cuz yes, the oil painting will be the larger oil painting will be The larger painting will be in oil. This is just a study so that I can do all these work out all the layers. It would be very sloppy. I feel it wouldn't have the same mood. I'm trying to find my photo. It wouldn't have the same mood if I did it in oil because I wouldn't be able to layer so quickly. And this composition is slightly wider than the original, and so is my panel. So it's just slightly, not as square. It's a little bit longer. So I'm just adding more room off to the right. The photo ends. It's tighter cropped inside. I'm just adjusting for more space on the right and left. Other than price, should students use gouache as opposed to acrylic? You can use whatever you want. I would experiment whatever you like best. It's that's what it's all about, is kind of figuring out what works for you. And see, that's why I'm kind of I'm more of an artist, as I said, than a teacher, because oftentimes you'll run into instructors that like are obviously very opinionated, and that's why they're good instructors, because they like to kind of share their method, and they don't doubt or they don't question their position. They really feel like it's the position, and for me, I feel like part of the journey with art, part of making art, is a little bit of self discovery and trying to just test stuff and see what inspires you, what kind of makes you tick, what makes you want to continue to create and share with the world images. And so for me, I've for a long time I've wanted to work from old images, but it's kind of, you don't really like sell paintings from old photographs. But in a situation like this, because it's an opportunity to do something different and learn from what I'm doing, then it's kind of, I realize that it's possible to basically bring you guys on the journey with me through this piece so that you can experience what it's like to make a painting. And so all this time that I'm investing, it's almost time to go. It's almost 8 o'clock. All this time that I'm investing in the information right now is valuable because it's time spent thinking about this thing as a work of art. So you have to slow down at some point and kind of look and just appreciate, almost as if you were there, again, going back to that idea of kind of using your imagination and searching out this picture. I'm going to go back to the image now. See. Her wrist goes further down. Edges. Edge control with acrylics. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Edge control with acrylics. Uh, it's one of those things where you can expect it to be way different than oil, obviously, because it's drying up on you all the time. So if you think about values as you're painting, that'll help you. So I'm thinking more about my positioning of the values in the picture as opposed to edges. So then to get the atmosphere, it's really a kind of exercise in my understanding of what the values are doing in nature or in the picture. Well, it just turned 8 o'clock, so I'm gonna, even though I just love doing this, it's so much fun for me. I'm gonna just wrap it up there, and we will uh, continue next week. So that's the start of this painting. So I hope you enjoyed it. Um, have a good night. Thanks, everybody.